Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays Abiding by AFTERBIRTH Plus. Let's be honest, some crap episodes, some not great episodes have come out recently. We're gonna pivot back to an Eden start, to be honest. Just keep alternating. It happens, is all I'm gonna say about this. You know, sometimes you go through, Sometimes you go through, I mean, it's not like, let's not be ridiculous. We haven't been losing constantly. What we have done is lost 2 times more in the last 3 episodes than we had lost in like a month in advance of that. But, you know, it's the kind of thing that happens when you are used to winning like literally every single run. It's like a sports team, you know? If you're the Miami Dolphins and you lose a game, nobody bats an eye. If you're the New England Patriots and you lose 2 games in a row, people are like, what the heck is this? I've never experienced this before. So I'm not sweating it too much. Mostly because we've been here before. So what do? You play Isaac. You walk into enemies. You lose your, you lose half of your spirit heart for no reason. You take pills, get messy, make mistakes. Here's your seed, by the way. Herb P163. What's the game plan today? Have fun. That's a big one. I would say that's amongst the biggest. Alternate pressing the WASD and arrow keys in succession. Not willy-nilly, but in an appropriate fashion. In order to make sure that we locomote through the game while also aiming at enemies and taking them out in the best way possible. That's my thinking. You're like, man, this guy's really got nothing going on. I am now using the middle finger on my right hand to press the down arrow key on my keyboard. That's right, I'm not a controller player. It may surprise you. No, the truth is, again, you know, it's a pretty routine start to this year. Can't really complain. Pretty much... Are we gonna... Let's check it out. It's more fun this way. Why did I pick it up? Because didn't you not hear me 2 seconds ago? It's more fun this way. You know, my life is in a safe and secure place right now. And I mean, that is a good thing. I'm a fan of the routine. Earlier, you know, in 2020 and in 2019, we bucked the routine a little bit, you know? We started to introduce new stuff into the system, and it's working really well, and I've talked about that ad nauseum. You're probably sick of it. I got another thing I'm doing tomorrow that's going to be new, and you'll see the results of that with myself and Daniel. If you haven't seen them already, you'll definitely see them soon, which is exciting. But, you know, like my day-to-day life as a human being on this big, beautiful ball, I go to the gym. I gauge the quality of my morning based on the busyness of the gym. Not the business of the gym, because that's honestly not my business. I've talked about how, like, in February so far, the gym has been, like, substantially more busy. We got so lucky here, dude. Than I would have thought. Especially considering in January it was pretty much dead. I'm happy to report it's February the 12th. The gym is dead again. In a good way. For me, not for the business of the gym, which I well, honestly, if you own the gym, let me phrase this in a careful way. To some extent, I don't think you really care how many people go to the gym, right? You care about how many people have memberships. Of course, you would like them to go to the gym because then when their membership comes due, they're likely to renew. But at the end of the day, if you go into the gym and there's no people there, you know, you're probably like, well, we should really work on marketing and also customer retention. But simultaneously, hey, easy day at the office, right? Regardless. It was easy day at the gym. Easy day at work. NLSS went fine. Played some good games today. Checked out Besiege. It's always wild for me. It's only happened a handful of times. But, it's wild for me. I don't even know if we want that. To be able to do like a Northernlion tries of a game that I did a Let's Look At for when it first entered early access, and the Northernlion tries is like when it's hitting version 1.0. It's happened before. I'm trying to think of games that I've done, you know, like either 2 Let's Look Ats for or a Let's Look At and a Northernlion tries. It's definitely, I'm not going to say it's uncommon because, you know, games in early access don't leave. I think we're way past that phenomenon. Remember when people hated remember when early access was the Epic Video Game Store? Did I really just call it the Epic Video Game Store? Oh my god, I am 50. People would have arguments about early access nonstop. Now people are just like, oh, it's early access. Probably a couple of people watching this, they're like, I still hate it. Okay. I think really what worked against early access the most was that Steam Early Access also happened to be coinciding with the exact apex of open world survival / zombie games becoming insanely popular. This is a very unique floor here because we have the 5 room as well. I think we're gonna give this the old college try. I regret everything, and we won't take damage on the way out. I mean, we will take damage, but we won't lose our deal with the devil chance. But I think, yeah, I understand how the mechanics in this game work. You know, that really worked against Steam Early Access more than anything. I don't think you should ever look at an early access game and be like, this is, you know, something I should be afraid of. Instead, you should look at open world, ambitious, survival and crafting-laden games with, like, myriad systems laid over top, a science-based dragon MMO, and be like, you know what? This is one that I'm not sure if I want to support it with my money. Maybe I'll buy it when it comes out, but for now, we're gonna just chill. Anyway. It doesn't happen that often. Games, you know, usually I check them out once and I go, I don't know if we need to look at it again. But Besiege, a welcome counterexample for sure. Okay, so we're taking this exclusively for the Guppy pickup because we want to keep Forget Me Now. It's such a bizarre run. If I didn't roll with it, I would never forgive myself, right? So we're going to go to the 5 room. This, you don't even need me to mention that this is going to kill our boss rush opportunities because that's not, you know, that's very secondary. But we'll come in here and see what's going on. We found the item room early for the first time in a while. That feels good. Yo. You love to see it. I think about that early access stuff all the time. Look, have there been times where I've been, you know, wrong about stuff? Oh, all the time. I'm not even trying to suggest that I'm right more than I'm wrong. I wouldn't feel comfortable suggesting that with data. What? This is ridiculous. But my position on Steam Early Access, I feel like I can sleep soundly at night, knowing that I was on the right side of history for that one in particular. I have always been of the position, you know, Steam Early Access is not the problem. The problem, if you're worried about unfinished games, overly ambitious games that are going to take your money and not deliver on their promises, that's something you got to look at on a genre by genre, a consumer by consumer, and a developer by developer basis. You know, there are definitely some genres that I'm like, I would just not. I would never buy your game under the idea that it's not gonna be there right now, but it'll be better in the future. If your game is like, it's, you know, it smacks of being so overly ambitious it'll never get done in the first place. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling and repeating myself here. Finally, a trinket worth its weight in gold. That being said, I got burned by a couple too. You know what I really got burned by? And I mean, not in like a, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars sort of way, but in like a, I do feel like there was a period of time where Kickstarter was able to get away with, get away is a really strong phrase to use there. There was a time where people were not as critical about crowdfunding as they have grown to become, and I think it's way better now. Like nowadays when I see people doing Kickstarters, I should say, it's not, man, that hurt. It's not, oh hey, we're gonna do, it's a, you know, $100,000 Kickstarter. We're going to make a completely true to nature 4K, massively multiplayer Animal Kingdom simulator, which is just obviously, you know, if not impossible. At least a little ridiculous. We're doing this floor again. That's absolutely right. I want these deals with the devil, dude. Why is the floor lighting up when we go into it? It's like we have a curse, but the curse is purging itself for some reason. I don't really want to spend HP to get it, but we might want to get it. Like, I think I've backed 3 things on Kickstarter in my whole life. And at least 2 of them, and I check every now and then. Honestly, I've just accepted that the money has been vaporized, you know? I don't check them to be like, oh, I'd really like to play this. Now it's more of just an element of curiosity for me. It's like, I wonder if this project will ever come out. And at least 2 of the 3 have not come out. They have gone through periods of, like, not updating their, like, developer updates. And then, you know, fans get, like, angry. Perhaps justifiably. Although I'm also like, who are these people that still care? You might have backed this game when you were like, you know, 8 years old. And you're still like, I want it. You know, if you backed it in 10th grade, you're in like your 3rd year of college by now. I'm not saying they should be able to, you know, not get away or get away without giving you your product. I'm just saying, like, it's interest change. I'm surprised people are still so invested. They've, like, gone away for a bit, come back, and been like, we're gonna release, and then there's 3 months of radio silence, and people are like, rabble, 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 and you're like... Nowadays, I feel like people use Kickstarter much better, you know? It's usually for games that are gonna get funded no matter what. And then it's just like a nice little, almost like a marketing play, right? They're like, hey, like, they're remaking the Wonderful 101 by Platinum Games, that is. They did a Kickstarter for, like, way too little money. And then, that let a bunch of websites, like, write articles and signal boost it. And then it hit its goal, which is unrealistic, to be honest, because they couldn't have made the game for that goal. In, like, you know, 10 minutes. And then also, like, using Kickstarter as an opportunity to build hype, but also, like, give you merch, you know? Like, give you the opportunity to give fans merch if they want it. Alright, last Burning Basement 2, I promise, unless we encounter yet another 5-room. Anyway, that's my philosophy. I'm proud to say that I was right about early access, and you might say, like, oh, nobody said that. You go back to 2012, 2013, everybody was saying it. And not, like, literally everybody, but, like, a lot of people were like, I refuse to ever support a game in early access. I'm happy that now in 2020, people are like, yeah, it's an early access. No big deal. You still, you know, caveat emptor, but... I think, honestly, a big help is just there being Steam reviews now. Those didn't exist back then, so you couldn't just look and be like, oh, this hasn't had an update in 10 months. Okay, look, I have a bad habit of just being like, this item's trash, we don't need it. We should probably take the D10. I would love to replace it. Just go. Diarrhea. I do feel... I don't want to say we're underpowered, because I think that's a little ridiculous, but... I definitely feel like understated as far as HP goes, but I guess that's partly a byproduct of having another deal with the devil early in the game because of how many times we redid this floor. I don't know if we'd even be able to take a deal with the devil here. How many times have we fought Monstro? This is wild. We've had runs finish, like, 5 minutes longer than it took us to get through the second floor here. Now, a little bit of a... Maybe a... We're stacking the odds there in the explanation terms. I don't think we should take it. I'm just gonna, honestly, get me out of here. I know there's a shop, but let me go. Let me go. So anyway, that's what's going on in my life. Essentially very little. In a good way, though. Keep in mind, you might say, you know, it seems like you've had not a lot going on in your life for a while. Well, that's true. But also, like... We made a huge move last year. Like, both in the life sense, it was a big move. But also, like, we moved all of our stuff. I'm still in, like, the move hangover. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm still in the position. I know some people, my parents are like this, so if they're listening, I mean no disrespect to you. Obviously, I love my parents, and they know that. But some people think they hate moving, but they don't hate moving. They tell people they hate moving because hating moving is the sane opinion, but they are actually insane, and they love moving. Now, to be clear, I don't think anyone actually loves to move. I don't think people enjoy most of the time the process of boxing your stuff up and, you know, hiring a truck and then putting your stuff in the truck, driving this truck across town, unloading it, unpacking, etc., etc. And also, I want to point out, I've been talking to people about this move, and everyone's going, man, your move took you so long. That's crazy. Our move only took us blah, blah. Our move only took us blah, blah. And then, when I press them a little further, and we're only one item away from Guppy here, they go, are you all unpacked? And I'm like, yeah, that's part of the move. And they're like, oh, man, we moved 6 years ago. I haven't even unpacked. Then you're not moved. You don't get to feel superior about like, oh, their move took forever. We were moved in no time. Yeah, we still got 15 boxes we haven't up. You're not moved in. I'm sorry to tell you. If you need the stuff, unpack it right now. If you don't need the stuff, toss it in the garbage. Those are the only two ways that I consider you moved in. Then you can feel smug and superior that you moved in faster than we did. Yeah, we unpacked like the day we moved the boxes in. Of course. But my parents, every time they move, which has happened a lot, they go, never doing that again. And a few times I was dumb enough to believe that. And then they keep moving. Once every 2 or 3 years, they're like, hey, we found a new place we were looking at. It's a nicer neighborhood than the one that we were in. And I know we said that it was the nicest neighborhood, but this neighborhood is actually the nicest neighborhood. And, you know, I start the mental timer. Right now, you would have to pay me an amount of money that's so embarrassingly high, I don't even want to say it because it's just going to invite negativity. You would have to pay me an unbelievable, a king's ransom in order to get me to initiate a move right now. Now, I would have to be very careful. Because if you were like, I'll pay you, blah, 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 if I told Kate, she would be like, we're moving. So I would probably I would suck it up. But I would never initiate a move myself. I'll tell you, I think I'm one of those guys that, like, were it not for my spouse, and this is a good thing, by the way, on both sides. On one side, I think it's good to live within your means, of course, and, like, you know, not let lifestyle inflation get out of hand. But on the other hand, I think there's also something to be said about a secondary influence in person that's like, hey, you know, I would like to move up a little bit in the world if possible, and, you know, we're in that bracket where we can afford it, so can we do this? I think both sides have their own merits. I know one of them is way more popular on the internet. Well, depending on the circle that you're in, I guess. Both of them could be way more popular on the internet than the other, but and we will take this, of course. What is wrong with my face? This is an unbelievably strong run, though. I mean, as to be expected when we redid one of the easiest floors 4 times or 3 times. But I think I would be one of those guys that, you know, if it were not for Kate, I would live in, like, the same 1-bedroom home in the same part of town for my whole life. You'd be like, why does he live here? And you'd just be like, you know, you could ask me to my face. I'd be like, I don't know, inertia. Wouldn't you like to move someplace nicer? Well, I wouldn't mind living someplace nicer, but it seems like a lot of hassle. I already know the coffee shops around here, and I know the sandwich places and the blah blah, you know. Of course, that's not how it's worked out. I've moved, you know, across this great nation. And honestly found myself much happier in Vancouver than I would have been in my hometown. However, it messes with me sometimes, not on a philosophical level, because I have, like, you know, real things to be concerned about from time to time. Not many, but some. Is this not an XL floor? We go to the shop, for God's sakes. But I think, like, yeah, I'm happier here. But if I didn't know that I were happier here, would I be happier there? You know, you ever think about that? I think of it like guacamole. And you're just gonna have to bear with me on this one. I'm sure there's probably like an actual philosophical concept about this that I'm ignorant to. But, you know, the first few times I like had burritos, I never sprung for the extra cost for the guacamole. Because I was like, I'm already paying a king's ransom for this burrito. I don't really want the guacamole. It's going to be too pricey. And, you know, like 5 guacamoles pays for another burrito. It's like I'm treating myself to my own version of a loyalty card or something by not having it. One time, and it, by the way, very key to the bit, I was perfectly happy with my guacamole-less existence. One time I said, you know what, I'll get the guacamole. I ate it, and I went, what the heck, this is way better. And I don't know, maybe people are just wired differently. I think a lot of people would be like, I've been missing out. I was like in the exact opposite. As soon as I tried this good thing, I was like, I wish I'd never tried it. Because now, you can't go back. You've lost that freedom to eat the guacamole-less burrito. Because if you eat a burrito without guacamole, rather than being like, this is a delicious burrito, mindset is going to be like, I really wish this had guacamole on it. You've taken a positive thing, and in a way, by making it more positive, you've turned it into a little bit of a curse. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of a curse. Because if you want to make this a caricature, you know, if you distill it down to its brass level, you're like, a YouTuber is telling me that being happier actually makes you sadder. No, that's not really what I mean. I guess what I mean is, and this is like real talk, but when you're on the up, is great, right? Mom's purse? Hold on, I'm just thinking about what we might want here. You know what we want? The item room as soon as possible and as many Emperor cards as we can hold. Let's go. As long as you're constantly getting happier. You know, like if you're like, okay, I'm eating burritos with no guacamole. And then a month later, you're like, guess what? They're adding those little taro strips, so there's a little bit of crunch in my burrito. And then a month after that, they're like, guess what? They're adding, you know, they got regular tomato salsa, and they've got tomatillo salsa as well. You know, as long as you're constantly on the up, and that's bookworm, you're like, this is amazing. But if you ever slide back down, you know, through the tomatillo salsa, no taro strips, no guacamole, maybe even no burrito, you hit your chin on every rung of the ladder on your way down, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I say this with very little sense of irony. People think that I live like the most domestic life of all time because I'm like, I do the dishes, but really, like, I try new things all the time. Half of the people out here who are like, NL, he lives a boring life. Oh, you haven't even like, you're like, oh, I don't like broccoli. I don't eat green foods. So I refuse to suffer any criticism from that sect of the community, okay? Hold on, we're just working these through. People will tell me, like, I have a boring life, and I'm like, I've seen you in every stream I've ever done. I'm not trying to bite the hand that feeds, but your comment was originally rude to begin with. So I will respond to rudeness with rudeness sometimes. Anyway. Where was I going with this? Oh, I was gonna say, that's some of the time when people are like, you know, you should try blah, you should try putting maple syrup on a sandwich. It's delicious. I'm like, I don't want to put maple syrup on a sandwich. Because if it turns out I like maple syrup on sandwiches, I'm going to be eating these maple syrup sandwiches every day for the rest of my dang life. That's not good for me on a health level, nor is it good for me on a financial level, because real maple syrup is very expensive. It's not good on many levels, you know? I don't live my life in pursuit of the most hedonistic possible culinary choices. I'm trying to leave a... People are like, I'd rather die and leave a good-looking corpse. I'm like, that's not how... You don't do that by eating a bunch of maple syrup sandwiches and dying in a horrible accident. And most of the people who say that, I gotta say, unless your corpse has a big glow-up, I don't know if the corpse is gonna be that good-looking. It's a philosophy that just makes no sense to me. Nobody leaves a good-looking corpse. You ever been to a funeral? I have, yes. I mean, not many. You might think, oh, lucky, but like I don't see it that way. Instead, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a very backloaded life. It's morbid, but it's also kind of funny. I'm like, you know, in the whole, you know, I've been alive for 31 years. I have had, you know, people close to me die. I've had a grandfather die, but like, that's pretty fortunate for 31 years, you know? I had an aunt die at a, you know, she was only maybe in her late 30s when she died. And of course that's tragic, you know? I'm not trying to diminish that. All I'm saying is that, you know, most people, I think, who have lived for 31 years have dealt with more loss, you know, on that level in their lives than I have. But at the same time, unless, you know, there's like a cure for death coming down the pipeline in the next, you know, 30 years, it's not like I'm really lucky. It's more just like we're kind of saving it for later, you know? I'm not trying to get insanely morbid. I know people, honestly, don't take this the wrong way. I'm very rarely this guy, but some people online are very fragile. And I'm like, you know, it's just a joke in this sense. Don't worry about it so much. They're like, I don't want to think about that stuff. I'm like, okay, but also, please laugh if it's humorous. This is one where I'm like, I can understand. People don't want to think morbid thoughts, I suppose. But I see you. Then you go on Twitter and you joke about like, haha, the world's on fire. We're all gonna die. So it's a little bit of a double standard. Then again, I did just invent this straw man in my head. So, you know, it's possible there's no validity one way or the other. Well, I don't really know why I'm using this, to be honest. But we'll do it anyway. It's been a good run. It's been a very strange run, though. I mean, you can never complain. Let's be real here. We have 35 damage. It's pretty disgusting. Probably try not to walk into that in the future. But for some reason, I think it's honestly guillotine. I feel like a little bit, not underpowered, but not as powerful as I would expect to be given the stats that I see. There might be some truth to that as well. Because guillotine really lowers your effective fire, if you know what I mean. But anyway. I don't know how we got onto this subject. I don't know what subject we were just on. I thought we were talking about Steam Early Access, and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, not that many people in my family have passed away, but on the other hand, they will someday. I don't know. It's weird to say. Honestly, I think people misrepresent it sometimes. It's not like I get pleasure out of thinking stuff like that, but it, like, the thought of, like, you know, that happening doesn't make me unpleasant. I just kind of treat it as like a reality. Now, when it happens, it'll be very unpleasant. I was very upset when my grandfather died. When my aunt died, I was a little bit too young. You know, I mean, I was like maybe 12. It's not too young to like appreciate life and death, but it is kind of like it's too young to fully understand. I talk about this all the time, but like the example I always use is like I get so much more emotional the older I get, but I get emotional in like different ways, if that makes sense. Like I never cried at a movie. I can remember like the only movies I cried at in my entire life. One of the first was the animated Lion King in theaters. I would have been like 6 years old. And of course we know, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, but you should also be familiar with it. You know, the basic gist of the movie, The Lion King. When the traumatic event happens, I cried. For sure. And then I did not cry at a movie for 10 years. I had a single tear roll down my cheeks when I saw Big Fish in theaters with my mom when I was 16. Why is Boss Rush open? Is that Boss? Oh, that's not Boss Rush. I understand now. We've been cruising, dude, after all that. Anyway, and now I'm not even ashamed to admit it. People make fun of me. Did I cry during Black Panther? Yes and no. And you might think that that's me trying to cover up for the fact that I did. You know how much of my soul I've bared in these videos over the course of the past 10 years? If I was bawling my eyes out, I would tell you. You know why? A lot of people would find it hilarious, and it would raise my brand. They would be like, this guy's showing genuine vulnerability. I did and I didn't. What I did is I squirted some, I'll admit, due to a combination of the music and the message at the end of the movie. But it was not like I was openly weeping when he put on the suit, you know? I wasn't like, oh my god, Shuri was right, it does store kinetic energy and then release it when you choose. But I would cry during movies all the time, dude. I could, like, nowadays, first off, the thing is, when I was a teenager, like, I tried not to, because I was like, oh, it's, you know, unmanly. I grew up, and it's not like I grew up in the 1930s. You know, we grew up, you know, and anyone who's, like, come up at a similar time to me, I think will have the same thing. I grew up at a time where I thought that, you know, men were encouraged to be a little bit more, you know, open to their emotional side. But, you know, nowadays, you know, like 15, 20 years later, you know, it looks like the freaking Stone Age. In terms of, like, you know, toxic masculinity was not a phrase I heard until I was already a man, you know? So, back in the day, I was like, yeah, there's a lot of pathos, but I don't want to squirt any, because then it means I'm, like, I'm a baby. But anyway, now I cry in movies all the time. I cry in so many movies, to be honest, for the, like, most asinine of reasons that I can't even come up with a great example. The example I always use is, like, in sports movies when the underdog wins. Every time. Even though I know it's coming, even if it's the cheesiest nonsense, even if it's, like, awful stuff like Joanna Man. You know the plot of the movie Joanna Man? This is one that came out. This shaped my worldview, unfortunately. Joanna Man is about a bad boy in the NBA who gets kicked out for a year. So, because he's a total piece of garbage, he decides to pretend to be a woman so he can dominate the WNBA. He tricks Vivica A. Fox into falling in love with him. And then at the end of the movie, where, you know, she finds out that he's actually a piece of garbage, and you expect her to be like, I'm calling the cops, she's like, nah, it's cool. But even in that movie, you know, when I forget which WNBA team it was, but when they don't have Joanna Man, who carried their whole season, and they still come back to win in the finals without her, well, without him, I guess, I'm like, this is dumb, dude. But, like, a little tear comes to my eye, because I'm like, the rest of those ladies shouldn't be held responsible for the mistakes that Joanna Man made. They worked as a team, and they got it done. They've got nothing but my respect. Moneyball got me good, too. In Moneyball, which is a real, like, a true story. But when the Oakland Athletics, you know, they're on this incredible streak, and Billy Beane never goes to the games because he's worried that he's going to jinx them. And then all of a sudden, like, his daughter calls him and is like, you should go to this game. It's already in, like, the third inning or whatever. And he's like, you know what? Screw it. I will. And then he goes to the game, and they're up 12-1. But then they start to lose grip and lose grip and lose grip. And then it's tied up until Scott Hatteberg comes up and knocks a walk-off. It's a home run, probably, but I'm going to say grand slam because it ups the drama factor, right? That's a great movie moment. But anyway, I got to wrap it up here. I didn't realize we were finishing so quickly, to be honest. After all that. But, you know, that's like when I was 12. I was, like, unemotional. The only thing that made me upset was, you know, I'll be like, Dude, I told you it was a save round, but you bot. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this strange episode today. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!